Hello everyone, tonight we are walking straight into a thunderstorm, no umbrella, no poncho, and certainly no warning app chirping at your wrist. The sky above is black with volcanic clouds flickering with prehistoric lightning. You're standing on a low ridge of mudstones slick with rain and warm from the steam of nearby hot springs. The world smells like moss sulfur and something else like raw muscle. In the distance, a shadow lumbers across the mist. You don't want to know if it's friend or food. This is the late Cretaceous. You are hopelessly unequipped to survive it. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. You shuffle closer to a clearing where the trees fall away and the land sinks into a marshy basin. It's not quiet, but the noise isn't human. It's a blend of croaks, chuffs, and the metallic click of insects the size of your forearm. Rain hammers the ferns. Steam coils from warm puddles. Then a shape moves. You spot it just as lightning forks across the sky, a juvenile hadrosaur no bigger than a horse half dozing under a clump of horsetail reeds. Its eyes are half-lidded, head swaying slightly. It's standing, not curled up, not lying down, just balanced. Strange? Maybe to you. But here this isn't just rest, it's survival. You inch closer, careful not to crack a branch or splash your step. Every movement around you feels exaggerated in this soaked world. You start to realize something uncomfortable. You can't find a single dinosaur lying down. None. The forest is full of them, duckbills, armored ankylosaurs, a lone oviraptor on a hill, but all of them are on their feet, not alert, not grazing, just paused. Breathing, drenched, still. This is where your modern instincts whisper something's wrong. Why are they all standing? Even under this endless downpour, even the smaller ones with feathers are too soaked to fly and too awake to nestle. You wipe your face, you blink. The truth doesn't change. They're sleeping, while standing, in the rain. You look up expecting a break in the clouds, but this isn't your local summer storm that passes in an hour. This rain is the kind that lasts for weeks, fed by ocean currents that no longer exist, driven by a carbon-rich sky that hasn't been breathable since before primates were a glint in the tree. One fact sticks in your head like a mosquito: some species of dinosaur could stay motionless for hours while remaining perfectly balanced. Their skeletons, especially among ornithischians like the hadrosaurs, evolved complex ligament systems and tail counterbalances that help them remain upright even during rest cycles. It's not just efficient, it's defensive. Historians still debate whether this behavior was born out of predation pressure or biomechanical design. But you're not reading papers right now. You're watching survival unfold in real time. A loud crack of thunder rolls across the canopy. The juvenile stirs but doesn't run. It simply lifts its head, blinks its wide-set eyes once, then lowers it again like a sleepy cow. You exhale, relieved it wasn't about to bolt. And then you realize you were holding your breath too. What is it about rain that makes things seem more vulnerable? In some ways, rain was the only guarantee in the Mesozoic. Unlike today's segmented seasons, this world runs on pulses of monsoon, drought, fire, and flood, sometimes all within the same cycle. That means rest isn't timed by nightfall or temperature. It's dictated by pressure changes, herd dynamics, and gut-level instinct. You see it now in the patterns: the larger the dinosaur, the less it lies down. Not because they couldn't, but because getting up might take too long. In this swampy environment, one slip in the mud could mean exposure to predators. A sleepy sauropod isn't just vulnerable, it's bait. But there's something else here too. Something poetic. These creatures who ruled the earth for over 160 million years didn't rest like kings. They rested like prey. Even in sleep, they bore the posture of wariness, never quite safe, never truly surrendered to slumber. It reminds you of the way some birds today, like flamingos or cranes, doze on one leg, the other tucked up, head pulled into their shoulders, eyes fluttering shut for seconds at a time. Scientists call it unihemispheric slow-wave sleep. One half of the brain rests, the other stays awake, alert for danger. Crocodiles do it too. And yes, birds evolved from dinosaurs, so that evolutionary trick may have ancient roots. You're watching it now in deep time. The rain continues. Heavier now. Your clothes stick to your skin like bark. Somewhere in the reeds, a low trill vibrates through the ground. You don't know if it's a greeting or a warning. Either way, the hadrosaur hears it straightens slightly and shifts its weight but doesn't flee. It's just sleeping. And you realize something else. There's no such thing as safety here. Only moments of stillness. You blink away the rain trying to stay as still as the dinosaurs, but your modern body aches already. Too soft? Too twitchy? These creatures, they've been training for this for millions of years. You're just trying not to sneeze in case something with a bigger skull notices. Up ahead, the jungle thins into a slope scattered with ferns and broken logs. You trudge up, grabbing at mossy roots for balance. The moment you crest the ridge, the air changes thinner, colder, more charged. There's no thunder now, just the quiet dread that follows a storm, the kind that makes animals freeze and look sideways without moving their heads. And sure enough, there it is, a predator. It's not the kind of creature you expected to see sleeping. In fact, it's not even sleeping. It's stalking, slowly, deliberately. A mid-sized dromaeosaur, maybe 2 meters long nose, twitching eyes wide and unblinking. Its feathers are matted from the rain legs, bent with precision, tail rigid like a balancing beam. It's not hunting. It's waiting. You realize you're watching something older than violence. You're watching caution. Dinosaurs didn't just sleep standing up because it was comfortable. They slept that way because they had to. And when they didn't, when they risked lying down, it had to be calculated, coordinated, and extremely temporary. Imagine trying to nap in a world where everything around you is fast, angry, and evolving teeth. You shift slightly, accidentally kicking a loose stone. It tumbles down the ridge with a soft clatter. The raptor's head jerks. You freeze. Its gaze locks on the sound, but its body stays still. Not even a twitch. Then just as suddenly, it shifts into motion, not a sprint, but a quiet repositioning behind a low log. You catch a glimpse of its claws flexing, not attacking, testing. Even predators are prey here. The idea that sleep equals safety. That's a luxury of the modern era. Here, even blinking too long could get you killed. You step back slowly, remembering a study you once read while standing in a museum lobby, soaking wet from a different kind of storm. Paleontologists had found that theropods, especially smaller carnivores, had unusually large cerebellums relative to their size. Why does that matter? Because the cerebellum helps control movement and coordination. And guess what else it's good at? Balance. So maybe they didn't just stand while sleeping, maybe they barely slept. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs experienced the same kind of REM cycles humans do. Did they dream? Did their brains flicker with ancient memories or instincts, or even just images of running water in safe places? Or was it all muscle tension and momentary shutdowns, like flicking a circuit breaker and hoping nobody notices the blackout? At the base of the hill, you spot a group of small creatures huddled together beneath the shelf of a fallen tree. Proto-mammals, twitchy and narrow-eyed, skittering over one another for warmth. They don't sleep either. Not really. They just blink more slowly. And suddenly, you feel it how tired this world must be. Not from lack of energy, but from the effort of staying alive. Every breath is a calculation. Every rest is a risk. You duck beneath a vine, slipping back into thicker undergrowth. The ground sucks at your boots. Somewhere nearby, water drips rhythmically off a broad leaf, the closest thing you've heard to a clock in hours or centuries. Up ahead, there's something unexpected. A track. Not a path, but a literal print deep, unmistakable fresh. It belongs to something massive. 3 toes claws dulled with mud. Heel sunk slightly too far into the earth. You crouch to look. Inside, the impression water has already pooled. The rain doesn't wait. You stare at it longer than you mean to because there's something sobering about it. This footprint isn't a fossil. It's real. It'll be gone in an hour, washed away by the storm. But for now, it's a perfect record of presence. And right next to it, a smear, a tail drag, a slip, or maybe the creature laid down. Your heart quickens. You imagine it a large herbivore exhausted after a migration, trusting the height of the hill to keep it safe. Maybe it thought the mud would be soft enough. Maybe it thought it had time. You walk forward, eyes wide, and then there it is. The body is long gone. But the depression in the earth tells you everything. A shallow nest pressed with a rib cage's worth of weight. It curled briefly in the rain. And when it rose again, it dragged one leg for a few steps before finding its rhythm. Maybe it dozed. Maybe it dreamed. Maybe it regretted it. You look up. The rain's easing now. The jungle smells different, less ozone, more fungus. You can hear distant calls again, long and low. It's not a warning exactly. It's just communication. Maybe they're telling each other it's okay now. That the worst of the storm has passed. That it's safe to close one eye. You smile just a little, until you hear something behind you snap. Not thunder, not a twig, something bigger. And you remember the oldest rule of all: the moment you think you're safe is the moment you're not. You bolt forward quietly, instinctively ducking under a rotten branch slick with moss. Whatever snapped that twig wasn't small, and you don't intend to be the snack that proves it. The path narrows into a shadowy corridor framed by tree ferns and cycads, their fronds hanging like curtains. You push through them carefully, feet squishing and wet, loam heart pounding in your throat. Then you stop. Not because of fear this time, but because you've stumbled into something remarkable. A clearing. Not a wide-open field, but a flattened patch in the forest where the canopy lifts, letting in faint gray light. At the center stands a dinosaur, alive, colossal, unmoving, and upright. It's a ceratopsian triceratops or something closely related. You don't need to count its horns or check its frill to recognize the attitude. Regal, resolute, completely still. Raindrops bead and roll down its hide like dew on leather. Its eyelids flutter slowly, lips slack-tailed drooping low. You hold your breath. It's sleeping, standing right in front of you. This isn't like the raptors, cautious and twitching. This creature is doing something entirely different. It's trusting physics. Because here's the fun part. These animals were biomechanical masterpieces. Dinosaurs like ceratopsians and hadrosaurs evolved with a system of ligaments called the stay apparatus, which modern birds and large mammals also share. Think of it like nature's version of cruise control. The joints lock, the tendons brace, and the animal can remain upright with almost no muscle effort. One authoritative study suggests that this system allowed large dinosaurs to sleep while standing, especially in places where lying down could risk being stuck injured or just embarrassingly exposed. Not a good look when you weigh 6 tons and take 10 seconds to get off the floor. Historians still debate whether this posture was solely for sleep or also for digesting. After all, being a giant herbivore isn't easy. It's hours and hours of chewing, fermenting, and re-chewing. And sometimes when the body needed a break, it just stopped moving but didn't collapse. You shift your weight, watching it sway ever so slightly. Not in distress, not in weakness, but like a subway commuter half dozing, keeping balance through muscle memory and stubbornness. It's peaceful. And then, of course, your brain ruins it because you remember something oddly off topic. You once read about how cows can sleep standing up but can't reach REM sleep unless they lie down. They doze on their feet, but they dream on their sides. Elephants, too, can only dream when they lie down. So now you wonder, was it the same here? Did this massive dinosaur ever dream? Did it ever lie down at all? You glance at its flanks, searching for signs of wear or scars. Its legs are thick braced like columns. Its feet wide splayed, gripping the earth with cracked toenails. If it fell here in this mud, it might not get up. That's not a metaphor, that's physics. Some scientists believe that for the largest species, falling while sleeping could result in broken bones or worse, and so they just didn't. Not unless they were young or injured or desperate. You step around the edge of the clearing trying to remain invisible, though the squish of the earth suggests otherwise. The dinosaur doesn't flinch, just breathes soft and rhythmic. You could almost forget it was dangerous, almost. Then you notice something behind it. Several somethings. You squint. A group of smaller dinosaurs, possibly juveniles, cluster in a semicircle around the adult. They too are standing still, heads bowed, not eating, not moving, just imitating. You smile. It's sleep training prehistoric edition. But more than that, it's social structure. These creatures didn't just live in herds for protection, they shared behavior passed on instinct adapted as a unit. You see now how complex the dynamics must have been. Who sleeps first? Who guards? Who moves if the mud shifts? You step lightly past them, keeping your eyes low. Not out of fear, okay. Yes, out of fear, but also out of awe. Because standing in the rain has never looked more like power. A warm wind rustles through the clearing and the rain momentarily slackens. The forest seems to take a breath. You notice new sounds, distant chirps. The rustle of wet wings, maybe even the grumble of something stirring in its nest. The dinosaurs don't react. They know their place in the rhythm, and so do you now. Because if you're going to survive this night and maybe even enjoy it, you'll have to learn how to rest. Like them upright, quiet, alert, but not afraid. You look one last time at the massive herbivore and its sleepy entourage. The storm returns with a low grumble and the clearing dims again. The adult exhales through its nostrils, steam curling in the air like a sigh. If it dreams, it doesn't show it. The rain finds you again as you weave downhill, winding through a maze of tree trunks and exposed roots. It's thinner now, more of a mist than a storm, but it clings to your skin like breath on glass. The light shifts with it, cooler and dimmer, as though the jungle is adjusting the volume of the day. You pause beside a crooked tree, listening not for dinosaurs this time, but for weather. Because out here, weather is more than background noise. It's strategy. You glance around at the canopy. The leaves are thick and high, good for shedding rain, but not for keeping anything dry underneath. Pools of water collect in the wide palms. You touch one out of curiosity, warm as if the sky itself was simmering. You wouldn't call it refreshing. You'd call it prehistoric soup. Far off, a crack of thunder rolls again. The air smells like lightning, but nothing moves. And that's the mystery. Why with this much rain and noise does everything seem so still? You step into a clearing and there it is, a broad depression in the ground dotted with shallow basins and gouges. Not made by animals moving, made by animals waiting. This is where a group of dinosaurs weathered the storm. You kneel beside one of the depressions, running your fingers through the soaked earth. It's patterned with faint scales like a stamp, but it's shallow, uneven. Not a nest, not a bed, just an impression of weight, then motion. These weren't resting places, they were pauses, delays. And that's when the thought hits you. Maybe they didn't sleep through the rain at all. Maybe they only paused between decisions. It makes sense. After all, in a world where survival depends on movement, on eating, migrating, avoiding getting trampled or devoured, who has time to sleep through a monsoon? Historians still debate whether Mesozoic rainstorms drove behavioral shifts or were just tolerated. But the fossil record shows evidence of rainprints tracks made then sealed by sudden downpours. In some fossilized layers, you can see a perfect trail of footprints that abruptly stops interrupted by a rain-washed smear. Then the tracks resume a few paces to the side, like someone reconsidered their route mid-storm. You look down at your own feet. Mud-coated, deep, slow. Rain isn't just water, it's pressure. It forces choices. Ahead of you, you hear a low rustle. You duck instinctively, but it's not a predator. It's a pair of feathered creatures, maybe troodontids, picking their way across a fallen log. They look soaked and unimpressed. You watch as one shakes its feathers and blinks rapidly, eyes swiveling, head cocking. Then it yawns. A real yawn. Open beak, stretch neck, blink slow yawn. Then it tucks its head back into its shoulder and stands still. It's not hiding. It's sleeping. On a log, in the rain. You whisper under your breath, "Seriously?" Because modern birds, descendants of these very creatures, also do this. Stand on branches during storms. Sleep with half their brain feathers puffed and damp heads tucked under wings. And we think that's charming. But here in the Cretaceous, that same pose is tactical. Being still in the open isn't surrender, it's camouflage. Movement draws attention, stillness blends in. And if you can stand still long enough to rest your brain without losing your legs, that's a superpower. You step past the log and hear another sound oddly familiar. A slapping, splashing rhythm. You follow it cautiously, weaving through hanging vines until you reach another clearing. This one is filled with water. Not a pond, not quite. More like a shallow, flooded depression, maybe the footprint of a collapsed hill, maybe just a bowl in the jungle floor. Wading through it are a cluster of small ornithopods, ankle deep and soaked to the bone, but they're not feeding. They're walking in slow, rhythmic circles, like cows pacing before they lie down, like sharks looping in a current. One of them stops, lowers its head, closes its eyes, and stays standing. This is it. This is how they did it. These creatures, half asleep, moved through the rain in slow, predictable patterns, and every so often one would pause just long enough to reboot its brain. Then it'd rejoin the loop, a primitive system, simple, elegant, and really kind of brilliant. You crouch and watch entranced. The rain drums on your hood like fingers on a desk. The ornithopods rotate lazily synchronized like dancers who don't realize they're dancing. You wonder what they dream about, if anything. If they remember what warmth feels like. If their brains know they're wet. A bolt of lightning snaps across the sky, and in that moment, the entire herd freezes. Nobody moves. Nobody runs. They just stop. The lightning fades. The thunder lags behind it by 6 seconds. Still no movement. Then, as if on cue, they resume the loop. And that right there is what sets them apart. Humans panic at thunder. These creatures have heard worse. You stand again, water squishing in your boots, and exhale slowly. Rain here doesn't put dinosaurs to sleep, but it slows them just enough to dream on their feet. The jungle opens slightly as you follow the herd's trail. Though trail is generous, it's more of a soggy ripple through underbrush where ferns no longer stand upright, and the ground flexes under each step. Above you, the canopy is broken just enough to let down a shaft of silver mist, and that's where you see them, feathers. Not scattered, like a predator's leftovers. No, these are living, moving, wet-feathered dinosaurs huddled together under a tilted rock ledge. Velvety raptors, maybe the size of turkeys, maybe bigger, but not hunting. Not even restless, just waiting. And they look miserable. One of them sneezes. Another tries to fluff its feathers only to end up wetter. Their tails twitch lazily, Their heads droop. Some are awake, but only barely. Their eyes blink out of sync like malfunctioning nightlights. You crouch nearby, just out of sight. Rain beads and rolls down the ledge. One of the raptors opens its mouth in a silent yawn, revealing a tongue that looks too pink for such a sharp-toothed mouth. And then it tucks its head under a wing and just stands there, sleeping, standing, in the rain. You almost laugh because this looks familiar. Birds do this. Chickens, parrots, pigeons. They all do it. Fluff up balance, tuck the head, and drift off half aware, half dreaming. It's cute when it's on a perch in a suburban backyard. But here it's a survival tactic. You know this now. The wet-feathered dinosaurs aren't cuddly, they're strategic. Their feet lock to the rock like clamps. Their tails act like stabilizers. Their feathers, though soaked, still provide some insulation. And the huddle, that's insulation too. Because sleep, even a fractured nap, is warmer when shared. Historians still debate whether early feathered dinosaurs developed communal sleeping habits for warmth or for protection. Maybe both. What's certain is this: they didn't curl up like wolves or burrow like badgers. They braced, and if they had to sleep in the rain, they did it shoulder to shoulder, exposed but unbroken. You edge closer, careful not to startle them. They don't notice. That's when you realize some of them have eyes open. Not wide, not alert. Just half open. You blink confused. Are they sleeping with one eye open? And then it clicks. Unihemispheric, slow-wave sleep. You've heard of it before, mostly in dolphins and birds. One hemisphere of the brain rests. The other stays alert. The eye opposite the awake hemisphere remains open, scanning for danger. Half sleep, half watch. And you're seeing it now live 80 million years before anyone coined the term. It's uncanny. They're not resting the way you rest. Not switching off, not dreaming of nothing. They're powering down in shifts, like old computers conserving just enough battery to stay alive. You hunker down beside the ledge and take in the scene. The light is softer here, diffused by mist and moss. The rain isn't hammering, just whispering against stone. And in this quiet, broken only by the occasional sniffle or twitch, you can almost hear their breath. Steady, shared. This isn't a place of fear, it's a place of trust. Because if just one of them sensed danger, they'd all know. The open eyes would blink, the muscles would tense, and the entire group would snap from sleep to flight in a heartbeat. You lean back against the rock, letting the cold seep through your jacket. You're soaked, muddy, kind of freezing, but you don't want to move. Because this is as close as you've ever been to understanding them. Dinosaurs didn't just roam, they paused. They slept clumsily, strategically soaked to the bone, pressed against one another, in groups that could vanish the second the jungle made a wrong sound. You wonder what this particular group hunts when the skies are clear. You wonder if they ever really lie down. Probably not. At least not here. This rock shelf is a sanctuary, but not a bed. It's too narrow, too exposed. They'll sleep here until the rain lifts, and then they'll vanish, melting back into the trees like ghosts with feathers. You shift your weight, ready to move on when something else draws your attention. At the edge of the huddle, there's a smaller one, maybe a juvenile struggling to stay upright. Its head dips lower than the others. Its legs wobble. You freeze. Is it sick? Hurt? Or just too tired? It topples, but not fully. One of the older ones sidesteps, nudges it gently with its shoulder, and presses closer. The youngster shudders, regains its balance, and tucks its head again. You exhale. That wasn't just instinct. That was care. And that's the part no textbook ever really captures. These animals, so often reduced to teeth and tails, knew how to protect each other even in half-sleep, especially in half-sleep. The mist thickens. The rain returns. The huddle shifts. You watch them vanish behind the curtain of weather like a dream dissolving just before morning. You rise muddy and stiff and step away. Behind you, the raptors don't stir. They're still standing, still sleeping, still surviving together. You walk alone now, following no path, just letting the land tug you forward. The forest has quieted again, not silent but heavy. Water drips from every surface. Your clothes cling like damp regrets, and under your boots the ground breathes. You don't mean that poetically. The soil here really seems to shift with every step as if it's tired too. The canopy thickens. Light dims. You feel your own exhaustion rise, maybe empathy, maybe atmospheric pressure, maybe just plain fatigue. And you think, for the first time all night, what it would feel like to lie down. Then you remember what that would cost in this world. You break into a small grove where the trees are thinner and the ferns are taller, waving gently in a breeze you can't feel. And there at the center is something wrong. A dinosaur. Dead. No. You crouch low. It's breathing. Barely. A medium-sized theropod lies in the ferns, twisted in an awkward curl tail tied against its side jaw slack. Its ribs rise and fall slowly. Its eyes are closed, limbs twitching. You've never seen one like this. It's not just sleeping, it's dreaming. And it looks vulnerable in a way nothing else has so far. You move closer, keeping your steps shallow. One wrong crack of a branch could end this, but curiosity overrules caution. Here is the paradox of the Mesozoic: to lie down is to rest, but to rest is to risk. This theropod, whatever it is, has taken that risk. You notice its flank is muddy, its claws slightly bloodied. Maybe it was injured, maybe it's sick, or maybe it just finally had to sleep. You glance around. No pack, no protection. Just this one predator curled like a child after a long tantrum. You sit in the wet moss and watch it dream. Its limbs jerk slightly as if chasing something in its sleep. Its tail flinches. A low growl rumbles in its throat. Scientists have debated for years whether dinosaurs experienced REM sleep. Evidence from modern birds and reptiles suggests yes. In pigeons, REM cycles are as short as 10 seconds. In crocodilians, REM-like brain activity occurs during deep rest. And if both birds and reptiles do it, well, dinosaurs sit right in the middle. Historians still debate whether these ancient REM cycles were tied to memory consolidation or just neural maintenance. But right now, watching this creature twitch, you decide it's dreaming something. Not like us. Not of taxes or awkward conversations or forgetting to wear pants to school, but something simple. Movement, water, hunger, heat, maybe even fear. You catch yourself leaning closer. Heart thumping, not from danger this time, but from wonder. You want to see inside its mind. You want to know if this storm-soaked world ever feels warm when its eyes are shut. And then, without warning, it wakes. Not like you wake with groggy stretches and snoozed alarms, but with a start. A full-body jolt. Its eye snaps open, wild and golden, and locks straight on you. You don't move. For a second, you don't even breathe. And then it does something unexpected. It doesn't run. It doesn't attack. It freezes. Lying on its side, it watches you. One eye open, body tensed but motionless, breathing shallow. You realize it's pretending, faking stillness, fake sleep, a performance perfected by countless prey species and now here by a predator. You slowly raise your hands, not to scare it, but to show you understand. You've done this too. Pretended to sleep when danger walked by. Pretended to rest when your mind was screaming. Maybe we all evolved it from the same root, this need to deceive the world into leaving us alone. The dinosaur blinks. Once, twice. Then, gently, it pushes itself upright, slow and deliberate. The way you rise from a nap you didn't mean to take. It doesn't look at you again, just steps into the ferns and vanishes. You exhale. Not in relief, in respect. Because that moment, those few seconds of sleep on the forest floor was everything. A gamble, a release, a biological miracle. You get up wet to the bone, legs trembling from crouching too long. The rain hasn't stopped. It never really does. But now it feels quieter, and you feel older. Because you just watched a dinosaur sleep the way we do with tension with dreams, with the full weight of survival pressed into every breath. And you realize something else. In this world, a nap is a revolution. You're walking again more slowly now, more aware of your own two-legged clumsiness. You've just watched a predator pretend to sleep and actually dream in the same hour, and your brain isn't quite sure where to file that information. Under science, under existential crisis. Maybe both. The rain has thinned to a whisper. The kind of drizzle that you stop noticing until your sleeves are soaked again. You brush aside a low-hanging fern and find yourself on higher ground, rockier, less overgrown, with a view that rolls out below like a green, steaming sea. And that's where you see them. Dozens, maybe hundreds, all moving in slow formation. A herd. You don't know what kind yet. Maybe hadrosaurs, maybe a mix. Long necks, hunched backs, tails swinging in rhythm. They're navigating the slope together, single file in some places, bunched in others. But it's the way they're moving that catches you. They're not migrating, they're circling. At first it looks random, but then you notice the outer edge of the group is rotating clockwise, the center counterclockwise. Like a double helix in motion. You creep closer, stepping from stone to stone until you're on the same level. The breeze carries their scent, muddy, musky, plant sweet. And under it all, the faint sound of breath. Dozens of deep-timed exhales, in, out, in, out. And then you realize they're sleeping, or at least resting, standing, moving, together. You're watching synchronized slumber in real time. This is what herd animals do, even today. Elephants nap while standing in a tight circle, matriarchs guarding the outer edge. Wildebeest rotate positions in the group while grazing, so no individual stays on the vulnerable edge for too long. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs were capable of this kind of social intelligence or whether this behavior was more instinctive than conscious. But here, watching them now, it feels coordinated, practiced, like choreography passed down through muscle memory. You edge behind a large rock and settle in. From this spot, you can see the younger ones, smaller, nervous, grouped near the center. Occasionally, one of them closes its eyes for longer than a blink. And when it stumbles, another nudges it gently back into place. The elders on the perimeter remain half alert. They sway with the sloped tails held stiff for balance, eyes never fully closed. You think again of modern birds and how some species take micronaps while gliding midair. Maybe dinosaurs didn't need full rest cycles at all. Maybe they survived on moments, blinks stitched together into pseudo-sleep. It's not romantic, this idea. It's exhausting. But it works. You scan the herd again and spot one individual near the front. Massive. Scars across its side, a trailblazer. It stops for a moment and lowers its head, not to feed but to rest it on its chest. Legs stiff, eyes shut. Seconds pass. Then it jerks upright and keeps walking. That moment, that twitch is familiar. You've done it on buses and meetings in class. That head dip, gravity yanking your chin down while your brain screams, "Not now, not here." And you realize the head nod of sleep predates mammals. It's ancient. You smile, a small one. But then something shifts, the herd slows. The front ones pause. The back compresses. You feel tension ripple like static. A sound, not close, not yet, but distant, low, rhythmic, not thunder, not wind, footsteps, large ones. The herd doesn't bolt, they brace. Standing sleep ends, instantly replaced by frozen attention. Heads lift, tails tighten, legs realign. And you feel it too, that instinct, that need to wake to decide to act. Then, nothing. False alarm. Maybe. Or maybe it was just part of the ritual. Because sleep in a herd isn't about comfort, it's about readiness, one eye closed, one ear open, always, forever. You exhale and slide back down behind the rock. No predators in sight, just 100 heavy breaths returning to rhythm. And as you leave, the formation begins again, slow circles, counter circles, like a living clock. You walk away lighter even in your wet socks because you've seen something beautiful. A community that trusts each other just enough to rest. Not fully, not deeply, but enough. Enough to survive the night. You're back under the trees again, where the air is thicker and the ground returns to its swampy pulse. Everything here is damp, your arms, your thoughts, the inside of your boots. You move slower now, not out of fatigue, but out of respect. You've seen a predator sleep and a herd sway in synchronized slumber. What's next? A sleepwalking stegosaur. The jungle narrows. Trees grow closer together, their bark glossy and veined, their roots snaking like lazy crocodiles across the path. You duck beneath a low branch and find yourself face to face with stillness, but not peace. A theropod stands in a clearing, completely frozen. Its arms hang limp. Its eyes are closed. Its jaw is slightly open as if mid-snore, though no sound comes out. It's a predator. A proper one this time. Something close to a megaraptor, sleek, long-snouted claws like shears. You duck behind a bush, heartbeat rising, but it doesn't move. You wait. Still no movement. And you realize with a bizarre, creeping awe, it's asleep, upright, like a statue that forgot to fall over. Its balance is eerie. There's no swaying, no muscle flickers, just this haunting stillness. Modern birds have something similar. Pigeons, especially, can sleep so still that people often assume they're dead. Even some reptiles go into torpor-like states where motion ceases, but sensors remain half on. And here this dinosaur has reached the prehistoric version of that setting. Sleep paralysis with claws. You hold your breath and step slightly to the side, trying to get a better view. Its talons are clenched slightly inward, but its shoulders sag. If it lunged now, it'd have to reboot its nervous system first. You can't help but whisper, "Are you even in there?" Historians still debate whether dinosaurs could experience a form of lucid sleep, a state where their brains stayed partially aware while their bodies went offline. In modern animals, especially birds, this kind of rest allows for rapid response even in sleep. It's less like a nap, more like standby mode. But what you're seeing here doesn't feel like standby. It feels like performance. And then you notice something strange. The bushes behind it move. A smaller theropod appears, same species, same posture, but this one isn't asleep. It's watching, studying. It circles once, then takes the exact same stance. You blink. They're mimicking. The first one may not be fully asleep, it might be pretending. And the second, learning. You've just witnessed something unnerving, a predator practicing stillness. You watch them for minutes that feel like hours. No sound but the drip of rain, no movement but your own pulse in your ears. Eventually, the larger one twitches a shoulder jerk, a toe flex. It exhales sharply, then turns and vanishes into the trees. The second follows without hesitation. And just like that, the clearing is empty again. You stand slowly, brain fizzing with questions. Was it really sleeping, or was it luring prey, showing dominance, teaching its young? Either way, it worked. Because you're still here, still stunned, still alive. You press on, crossing into lower ground again. The trees open into a basin of thick reeds and scattered rocks. A safe place to sit, finally, you do. The silence here is deeper, muted, like the jungle's holding its breath, And just when you start to relax, you hear it. A snore. Not from above, not from the trees, from below. You freeze. Then slowly, very slowly, you peek over the edge of a nearby boulder. There, half submerged in a puddle of thick mud, is another predator. But this one is unmistakably asleep, sprawled on its side legs, twitching chest rising and falling in long, lazy waves. It doesn't care who's watching. You're close enough to see each breath fog the damp air. Its eye opens. Just a slit. You don't move. It blinks, then shuts its eye again and exhales. And just like that, the world returns to stillness. This moment is what you came for. The paradox of power asleep. The terror of stillness that could shatter into violence. The miracle of trusting the world not to eat you while you dream. You step back. The mud pulls at your boots. The dinosaur doesn't stir. Tonight it sleeps. And so do you on your feet, one eye open, heart half awake. Your legs ache as you push through another curtain of wet ferns, each one slapping your face with the lazy insistence of a jungle that doesn't care what you've seen. The air smells richer now, warmer, muskier, tinged with sulfur and something sweetly rotten. You've descended into a lower basin where the heat rises from the ground like breath from a sleeping beast. You pause. The humidity here isn't just oppressive, it's strategic, like a trap. And you're not alone. The vegetation opens just enough for you to spot it, a dense clearing, cluttered with thick-leaf shrubs and blackened tree trunks. The ground is cratered and uneven, and at first you think it's a battlefield. Then you realize it's not damage, it's bedding. Dozens of oval impressions in the mud, shallow but distinct. Some are fresh, others filled with rain. Scattered here and there, half collapsed, are large, scaly leaves arranged in rough circles. Bedding material, not made by accident placed. And in the middle of it all lies something gigantic. A sauropod. Not the full neck and tail parade you're used to from textbooks. This one's curled, coiled in a way that suggests pain or exhaustion, or maybe both. But more than anything, it looks tired. Its head rests on a rise of earth nostrils, flaring quietly. One eye closed, the other just barely cracked open. You hold your breath. This is it, the rarest thing. A dinosaur that has actually chosen to lie down. You creep closer, skirting the bedding rings, trying to absorb every detail. Its ribs rise and fall slowly. Its tail lies like a fallen bridge across the grass. Its legs, enormous trunk-like, are folded beneath it, but not tightly. They've been positioned with care. This isn't a collapse, it's a ritual. And here's the thing, sauropods weren't built for getting up quickly. Their immense weight, paired with their low center of gravity, meant that lying down wasn't just a nap, it was a negotiation with gravity itself. Some researchers believe that a full-grown sauropod lying down would have needed sloped terrain to help them rise again, using their tail as a counterweight. Others argue they only did it when injured, sick, or dying. Historians still debate whether sauropods could regularly lie down without assistance, or if their size alone made every rest a calculated gamble. But tonight, you're seeing the answer firsthand. This one did. And somehow it's not dead. It's dreaming. You step around to its front, careful to stay out of its line of vision. From this angle, you can see its eye twitching gently the way a horse's might during deep sleep. Its massive jaw hangs slightly open. A drop of saliva lands on a stone with a quiet plop. And then you hear it, gus, a slow rhythmic hum. You can't tell if it's breathing, snoring, or something in between. But the sound resonates through the clearing like a lullaby wrapped in thunder. You sit, because what else is there to do? A bird calls overhead, sharp and brief, and the sauropod's ears twitch in response. Not fully awake, not deeply asleep. You know that state, we all do. The half-sleep of public transportation, of waiting rooms, of being a passenger in your own body. The air thickens again. A breeze drags across the basin, carrying the scent of crushed pine and wet stone. You close your eyes for a moment. not to nap, just to rest. When you open them, something shifts in the mud. Another sauropod, smaller, emerging from the trees like a cautious shadow. It walks slowly, neck low, steps careful. It makes no sound, just moves to the outer edge of the bedding circle and stops. It doesn't lie down, doesn't join the slumber. It just stands there, guarding. That's when you understand. Even here, even in what looks like sanctuary, sleep is never unguarded. There's always one who watches, always one who stands while the others fall. You think of modern elephants, how they rotate rest during migration. One sleeps, another remains alert. A shared burden, a pact. This isn't primitive, it's profound. Because in this ancient place where gravity is cruel and rain never quits, survival isn't just about teeth or speed. It's about trust, about watching over the vulnerable, about choosing to rest anyway. You stand slowly, your legs unsure of what they're supposed to do. The sauropod doesn't stir, neither does the sentinel. You walk back the way you came, boots sucking at the soft earth. Behind you, the dinosaur hums again, long, low, ancient, and you realize that the sight of something so massive choosing to sleep is more powerful than any roar. The sky is darker now, not nightfall, not yet, but the kind of dense gray dimness that presses down like a hand on your head. You've been out here for hours, but time doesn't mean much in a world that isn't watching a clock. Only your aching knees and soaked clothes remind you that you're human and very much from the wrong epoch. You follow the sound of water trickling. Not rain this time, something steadier. You find it behind a curtain of moss, a shallow stream winding its way between stone and root. You step into it, grateful for the cold wash against your ankles. Up ahead, the land opens again, forming a muddy shelf overlooking a low floodplain. And that's where you hear the real noise. Calls. Long, low, reverberating calls. Not quite howls, not quite honks. Something in between, a language built on vibration more than melody. You press forward, the trees thinning until you reach a slope of bare rock. You lie flat against it and peer over the edge. Below you is a wetland, swamped, flooded, steaming, and filled with dinosaurs. Not the big ones this time. Not sauropods or horned titans. These are theropods, medium-sized, feathered. Dozens of them, standing like statues in the ankle-deep water, their bodies upright, necks tucked slightly, claws just visible beneath layers of damp plumage. And they're not moving. None of them, just listening. The calls come from farther out, one voice at a time, then another, then a pause. The pattern is slow, deliberate, almost like roll call. You lie still, ears open, letting the sound creep into you. This isn't panic, it's a kind of contact, like they're checking in. Still alive, still safe, still here. You've heard that before. In human voices, during storms, during long nights, it's what we all do deep down. Prove we still exist by sending sound into the dark. Historians still debate the complexity of dinosaur vocalization. Did they sing like birds, roar like reptiles, or hum like whales, low and long? Some fossils suggest vocal chambers, not unlike those of cranes or ostriches. Others hint at air sacs, resonance chambers, tools for sound without words. Whatever the truth, what you're hearing now is not chaos, it's coordination. And then without warning, it stops. Complete silence, not even the rain, just breath. You scan the wetland again. The dinosaurs are still standing, still alert. But now their eyes shift, watching the trees, the sky, each other. It's the quiet that follows recognition. Like a classroom falling silent after the last name is called. Then, in the stillness, one of them does something small but astonishing. It closes its eyes. Not just one, both. It leans forward slightly, then stills. Another follows, and another, until half the wetland is filled with feathered theropods gently dozing upright in ankle-deep water. It doesn't look restful, It looks absurd, but also natural. The water helps. It cools the body, relieves weight, dulls sound. Maybe standing in water while sleeping was a strategy. Fewer insects. Easier to detect movement, harder to hear you coming. Modern herons do this. Flamingos. Even cattle will nap in shallow ponds. The water dulls distractions, even temperature. It creates a sense of nothingness, a quiet place in a loud world. One of the theropods closest to you lifts a leg and tucks it against its belly, then slowly lowers its head. You can't help but whisper, "You've got to be kidding me," because the sight is too modern, too bird-like, too familiar. And yet, here it is, ancient. They're not lounging, not even lying down. They're choosing to sleep where the world is wet and wide and hard to sneak through, not because it's comfortable, but because it's defensible. You close your eyes just briefly, trying to imagine the feeling, water against your skin, others breathing beside you, the sound of your name echoing through a chorus of calls. Not a song, not a warning, just a shared reminder I'm here. I'm tired. Let's not die tonight. You open your eyes and sit back, letting the moment settle. The world didn't change when dinosaurs fell asleep. It held its breath, watched over them, waited, and then eventually they stood again and vanished into the trees. But tonight, you're the one vanishing. You step away from the rock heart, still humming with those strange ancient calls. Behind you, the wetland remains still. Not because it's safe, but because for now, everyone is accounted for. You keep walking, though. Part of you wants to lie down in the mud and join them. Not because it looks comfortable, it doesn't, but because somehow against all logic it looks peaceful. But instead, you climb. The terrain shifts again from wet to firm as you ascend a narrow ridge veined with roots and carved by centuries of rain. The trees thin, replaced by scraggly bushes and naked stone. The sky feels closer up here, heavier, pressing down on your scalp like wet wool. Lightning flickers on the horizon, far enough to feel cinematic, close enough to smell. You reach the top and stop. There's something waiting. Massive, broad-shouldered, stocky. A tyrannosaur. And not a distant silhouette this time. It's right there. 10 paces from you, maybe fewer. Its head hangs low. Its eyes are closed. Its chest rises and falls in a rhythm so slow, so deep, it feels tectonic. You freeze. Every muscle in your body prepares to run, knowing you absolutely shouldn't. But the beast doesn't move. You glance around. No other creatures. No sign of prey. Just this one apex predator alone on a rocky outcrop, seemingly asleep. It's absurd. Comical even. It's like catching a lion mid-nap in a shopping mall. And yet it makes sense. Even kings sleep. The T-Rex's legs are braced wide, its tail outstretched behind it like a dock piling. Its jaw is loose. One nostril bubbles slightly with each exhale. It's drooling. You don't laugh. You don't dare. Because this isn't a pet. This isn't even a creature. It's an ecosystem wrapped in muscle. And right now it's trusting the world to leave it alone. That's the miracle. This animal apex predator, top of the food chain, literal nightmare fuel, is vulnerable. Just like everything else. You watch stunned as it twitches slightly. One leg adjusts its weight. A claw scrapes against rock, the eye opens. Just a slit, then closes again. That twitch, that peak, it's all it needs to confirm the world hasn't changed. Historians still debate how developed tyrannosaur brains really were. Some studies suggest their olfactory bulbs were huge, meaning their sense of smell was off the charts. Others argue their optic nerves were exceptional. Either way, what they lacked in finesse, they made up for in sheer awareness. And awareness doesn't turn off, not fully. So even asleep, the T-Rex is listening. You crouch slowly, putting the ridge between you and its field of vision. Not that it would matter if it wanted to eat you, you'd be an hors d'oeuvre with shoes. But still, you crouch, because something about this moment feels sacred. The way it stands, weight evenly distributed. The way its chest never skips a beat. The way the wind curls through its feathers, yes, feathers patchy and wet and stuck down like a ruined parade costume. This isn't the reptilian monster of movies. It's a bird with terrible manners. You remember reading once that birds experience REM sleep, but only in safety. In unsafe conditions, they drop into a more primitive state and REM sleep. It's lighter, more alert. No dreams, just pause. Maybe T-Rex had that too. Maybe it never dreamed. Just dozed. Half there, half hunting. You look again at the slope below. No other animals, no warning calls, just wind and mist and the ticking sound of distant water on rock. This moment, this silence is the closest thing to trust you've seen all night. A sleeping tyrannosaur doesn't mean safety. It means balance. The ecosystem isn't panicking. Nothing's scattering. That means the jungle knows this one isn't hunting tonight. You rise slowly. Your knees crack. The eye twitches again, but no movement follows. You step away 1 foot at a time down the ridge, letting gravity pull you back into the lower trees. You don't look back, not because you're afraid, because you're grateful. You gotta see something most of the world never did. Not a hunt, not a roar, a pause. You push through the underbrush, heart pounding not from fear but from a weird kind of joy. Because it turns out even monsters get tired. Even nightmares need naps. And that changes everything. The forest greets you again like a soaked curtain, draping across your shoulders, brushing your face with damp leaves and spider silk. The lower you go, the softer everything feels. Ground becomes sponge. Air becomes breath. You feel like you're walking into the lungs of the earth. And yet even here in the deepest green there are footprints, big ones. You follow them without thinking. Not because you're brave, because curiosity always outweighs common sense. They lead you around a shallow bend through a grove of ancient conifers and then stop abruptly. That's when you see it. A leg. No, not a severed one. This isn't that kind of story. It's a long, scaly, perfectly intact limb, half sunken in mud, bent awkwardly but still attached to something enormous and sprawled across the marshy ground. A dinosaur. Alive. Barely. Its flank rises with breath slow and deliberate. Its mouth opens slightly every few seconds, just enough to gulp in wet air. One eye is shut. The other isn't there. You wince. The creature's been in a fight. Claw marks stripe its back. One of its hind legs is pinned beneath its own weight. The mud has molded around it, cradling it like a grave that hasn't finished its job. And yet, it's sleeping. Or trying to. You approach quietly, stopping at a safe distance. Whatever safe means in this scenario. The dinosaur's head twitches slightly. Not in pain, in dream. You sit. This time you don't try to sneak. You just exist beside it. Because something about this moment demands witness. You're watching what might be a last sleep. A final nap before nature decides if it's time to rise or rot. And even now, even broken and half sunk, this dinosaur is sleeping, standing in spirit if not in posture. The front legs are still locked, braced. Its body hasn't fully given up. There's something poetic in that. You look closer and notice its feet are still engaged muscles, tensed toes spread slightly for balance. As if even while stuck, even while dying, the creature refuses to surrender to the ground. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs had death rituals or if their final acts were purely instinct. But here you see it with your own eyes, defiance. Sleep in this case isn't surrender, it's rebellion. You shift your weight and the mud squelches. The dinosaur twitches again, and suddenly, faintly, you hear another sound. From the trees, a low call, not loud, not urgent, just present. You turn. And there, stepping through the vines, is another of its kind. Smaller, uninjured. It approaches slowly, stopping a few feet from its wounded companion. It doesn't make a sound this time, just stands, watches, waits. You feel your chest tighten, not from fear, from recognition, because now you're not just seeing a dying creature, you're seeing a vigil. And you understand this species doesn't leave its own. Even in the rain, even in the mud, even at the end. The uninjured dinosaur lowers its head slightly, then closes its eyes, not to sleep, to keep watch. This is the sleep of giants, of fallen titans who refuse to collapse entirely, of companions who stay not because they're needed, but because they choose to. You sit in silence with them for a long time. The storm overhead grumbles like an old man turning in bed. You don't flinch. Eventually, the wounded dinosaur exhales again. Longer this time. Slower, not a sigh, not quite. A release. And still, it doesn't fall completely. Its body stays locked, half suspended by instinct and muscle memory. Even now it sleeps like it lived upright, wary, dignified. You rise, your legs numb from stillness. You look one last time at the pair. They don't look back, they don't need to. You've seen enough. You've seen what sleep means when survival isn't guaranteed. Not comfort, not peace, but posture. You step away slowly, as though your movement might break whatever fragile spell is holding that last scene together. The air is thicker now, not just with moisture, but with meaning. The kind of heaviness that comes from watching something ancient that choose stillness over fear. The path, if you can call it that, becomes steeper. The ground rises under your feet, shifting from soft mud to cracked stone slick with algae. You climb higher through wind-churned trees and patches of ferns flattened by recent rainfall. And then you hear it rain on stone. Not the sharp, bouncing kind, but a flat, soaking patter, the sound of water hitting a surface that doesn't give back. You reach the summit and see why. Before you is a plateau of rock, bare, exposed, sunken in some parts where puddles have formed wide, shallow pools. There are dinosaurs here too, but fewer. Solitary ones. And every single one of them is standing. In the rain. Just standing. No feeding, no calling, no grooming. They're not frozen with fear. They're not hiding. They are simply letting the storm happen. You crouch near a cluster of lichen-covered boulders, shielding yourself from the wind. A medium-sized ornithopod, probably a dryosaur, stands 20 feet away, head slightly bowed, water sheeting down its back. It blinks. Once, slowly. You know that look? It's the same expression your dog had during storms. That quiet, exhausted face that says, I don't have the energy to do anything else right now. It's haunting. But it's also relatable. Why didn't they move? Why didn't they seek shelter? Well, here's a thought. Maybe shelter wasn't the goal. Historians still debate whether dinosaurs sought cover from rain or simply endured it. Fossil beds show signs of rain-induced stress and bone growth, thin rings, mineral lines, but also preserved standing posture skeletons. Bodies caught mid-step, mid-pose, preserved as if they were too stubborn to flee the storm. That ornithopod in front of you shifts slightly. Not from discomfort, but to realign its feet. It's bracing. You watch it adjust its weight, hunch its shoulders ever so slightly, then still again. The same way a horse might during a summer downpour, resigned but not panicked. Maybe standing still in the rain was the smartest move of all. Think about it. In these open areas, wind and rain strip away scent. Visibility is poor. Footing is slick. Predators can't run well here. Lying down in this, that's a death sentence. The stone's too hard, too wet, too exposed. You'd never get back up in time. So you stand. You endure. You sleep if you're brave enough on your feet. You watch as another dinosaur enters the plateau. A juvenile hesitating. It squints into the mist, unsure. Its legs tremble not from cold, but from uncertainty. Then slowly, it walks toward the others, finds a dry patch well less wet than the rest, and plants its feet. It glances around, waits, then bows its head. Still, the others don't acknowledge it. They don't need to. Because here in this wide, wet world, stillness is communication. Stillness means I see you. I trust you. I'm not dead yet. It's the opposite of hiding. You crouch deeper into your rock shelter and feel the rain creep under your collar. Your hair is dripping. Your spine aches. You're tired in a way that feels prehistoric. And now, finally, you understand. The dinosaurs didn't sleep standing up in the rain because it was comfortable. They did it because there was no better option. Because the cost of lying down was too high. Because the ground itself might betray them. Because stillness, upright and soaking, was sometimes the safest place to be. You watch for a while longer, letting the storm soak you too. You don't need an umbrella out here. You just need posture. You descend from the plateau like a shadow sliding down a wall, each step softened by mud and moss. The rain has let up again, not stopped, just retreated into a steady whisper as if even the sky is tired now. Your hands are wrinkled from damp. Your boots are part of the earth. But your eyes sharper than ever. And that's lucky because you almost miss it. A gap in the trees opens to a wide, shallow basin. But it's not the clearing that stops you. It's the ground. Flat, cracked, dry, fossilized. This place isn't part of the storm. This is a memory. And the jungle has peeled itself back just long enough to show you a secret. You step forward carefully, boots crunching against pale stone. At first, the shapes are subtle grooves and dips that seem random. Then you see them. Footprints. Not one, not a trail. A crowd. Dinosaurs moved through here once in numbers. Massive feet. Smaller ones darting between, some deep impressions, others barely pressed into the earth. But what catches your attention are the ones that pause. Two parallel prints. Then nothing. A smear. Then more prints shifted slightly to the side. You kneel, brush away a thin film of dust and moss, and trace the outline with your hand. It's unmistakable. Something stood still here. Not running, not stalking, just standing. The rain begins to fall again, and now you see how water collects in the prints, highlighting their shape. A tail drag here. A round indentation where a hip might have shifted weight. A pattern of stillness in motion, fossilized rest. Historians still debate how much behavior can be read from trackways. Some say every step is a guess. Others argue posture can be preserved in stone. But here with the rain outlining ancient footsteps, it doesn't feel like guesswork. It feels like watching someone stop to breathe. You rise and continue following the fossil trail. At one point, you find an area where the tracks tighten together, multiple species, multiple sizes. A crossing, maybe a pause during migration, maybe shelter from a passing storm. And in the middle, a deep impression. Not just feet, a body. Something lay down here once. Not for long. Just long enough to leave an imprint, a sleeping shape in stone shoulders, curled slightly, tail tucked, head dipped. You're not supposed to see this, but the earth remembers. You run your fingers along the fossilized ribs, the contour of hips, the gentle arc where weight pressed into ancient mud. This creature, whatever it was, risked lying down. And for a moment it left its shape behind. Not its bones, its posture. It's rare, incredibly rare. Most fossils capture death. This is life. This is behavior. You hear a joke in your head uninvited, but they always say leave a good impression. And this one did. You smile, rain dripping off your nose. Farther along the basin, you find more traces of movement, stop, shift, turn. It's like watching choreography through stone, like reading the pauses in a symphony with no notes. And what's strange is how familiar it feels. You've stood this way in line. You've shifted weight the same way during long lectures. You've paused like this waiting for rain to pass. You realize how little the basics have changed. We all stand. We all grow tired. We all look for safe places to pause. You turn back, letting the wind tug at your soaked clothes. The storm returns louder this time. But as you leave the basin, you no longer feel like a visitor. You feel like someone who's seen a ghost resting, and that's rarer than seeing it rise. You wander downhill once more, gravity doing most of the work now. The jungle feels different, not quieter exactly, but settled. As if something ancient has exhaled. The rain softens behind you. The air smells of wet bark and turned soil, the way a forest always smells after something heavy has passed. You follow a stream trickling over slick rocks like a lazy ribbon of memory. The light here is golden gray, filtered through dripping leaves. A warm fog pools around your ankles. You're not sure what time it is anymore. Doesn't matter. Time doesn't live here. And then, between two broad trunks, you see it. A sauropod. Alive, breathing, dozing, not sprawled, not collapsed, just tilted. Its massive front legs are braced into the slope. Its hindquarters are lower as if it sat halfway into sleep and didn't quite finish. Its tail stretches downhill like a fallen bridge. Its neck arcs gently toward the earth, not limp, not tense, just resting. At the end of it, one closed eye. It's not standing, it's not lying. It's sleeping in parts, and you freeze not from fear but from awe. This is what you've been looking for. Not just survival, not just adaptation. Something more nuanced. Something more familiar. A moment that isn't all or nothing. A posture that says, I'll sleep what I can while I can. It twitches once, a shiver that ripples through skin like wind across wheat. A few feet away, another shape stirs, a juvenile curled-up head resting between folded legs. Not upright, not ready to run, just asleep, truly asleep. And, for once, nothing around it seems afraid. You crouch and watch the two of them, one tilted into half-rest, the other completely surrendered. It feels like watching a parent hold the night still long enough for a child to dream. And you feel it again, that sharp, gentle ache in your chest. Because for all their size, their armor, their teeth, dinosaurs slept like anything else. Cautiously, strategically, together when possible, upright when necessary, and sometimes, just sometimes, they gave in. Historians still debate what dreaming might have looked like for them. Could they imagine? Could they remember? Did their brains flicker with ancient instincts? Or did they simply rest in pure, silent dark? You want to believe they dreamed. Of migration paths. Of rivers. Of the scent of warm leaves. You stand again, rain tickling your shoulders like soft fingers. And as you step back, the juvenile lifts its head just slightly and blinks at you. Not startled, not scared. Just curious. Then it settles back into sleep. And something in you does too. You've walked through storms and silence, followed bones, and breath-tracked stillness through layers of mud and stone. And now you've seen the thing most never imagine. Not the fight, not the fall, but the pause. Tonight you walked alongside giants not in the chaos of their chases or the thunder of extinction, but in the hush between moments. You wandered through storms that soaked their feathers, saw them standing in the rain, not with defiance, but with discipline. You watched predators, fake sleep herds, sink their steps to a rhythm older than speech, and individuals risk stillness in a world that punishes it. You discovered that dinosaurs didn't sleep like us. They waited with their bodies. They stood in water to dull their scent, locked their joints to cheat gravity, and closed only one eye at a time just in case. They were tired but not careless, vulnerable but never truly off guard. Sometimes they curled their tails and dared to lie down just long enough to remember what comfort once felt like. But more often they braced, endured, and nodded off mid-stance, trusting muscle memory and herd proximity more than any shelter. You learned that rest isn't always soft. that sleep can be tactical, that silence doesn't mean safety, but sometimes it means trust. And now, as the final echoes of ancient breath fade into the mist and rain, you feel it too, that prehistoric patience, that long, slow, upright sleep.